Israel. All the brothers, Yahweh Shamar Alathan, Bahashim Yahweh Shah to all the sisters. With Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, start out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. We are all under commanding General Yohana, and we are not affiliated with any organization or Israelite group. You understand? If it's not 1 West, it's not the truth. All right, tonight is the Tuesday night Brotherhood class. All right, make sure you check the comments and you're logging in, you check in. Right now I'm putting the, where's it at, Salakia? Right now I'm putting the login information, the login document inside of the chat. So I'm giving brothers and sisters a chance to come into class. All right. Let's see here. All right. Once again, just giving brothers and sisters a chance to get in. We just started up. Make sure you're a new brother and sister. You're a student and you want to earn your Hebrew name. Make sure you sign in. All right. So I'm putting that sign in, log in information in the group chat. I'm sorry, in the chat right now. All right. Yeah, let me scoot over a little more. Look a little better. Okay. All right, it looks a lot better. All right. If you have any questions, you can ask. Also, this was brought to my attention, which is a good idea. I know nobody would probably ever use it like that here. But if you want to call in, you can call this number, 816-308-2070. We'll put it in the chat as well. If you want to call in and ask a question, if you're more comfortable with asking a question through the phone as opposed to online, then you're more than welcome to call in. The number is 816-308-2070. It's the number to the Kansas City School here in KC, right? No matter where you're at, if you want to call in and you want to ask questions, feel free. You understand? If you're more comfortable with asking on the phone as opposed to online, just feel free. If you want to ask them online, put the question in the chat. Make sure you put the question in the chat. This is the place you come to learn. You understand? This is not a church. This is a school. This isn't somewhere where your children come and they get violated sexually. This is the place your children come to learn and to get safety. This is a place you come to learn and get safety under commanding Johnny Hanna and UPK. All right, so don't be afraid. Everything's all right. Just put the questions in the chat. You can also call the number 816-308-2070 if you want to call in and ask a question and listen to class that way. That's perfectly fine. All right, but tonight's topic will be defending your brother. All right, defend your brother. Defending your people. Defend your brother. That's what we will be going over this evening. Right? There was a mass shooting, or as a matter of fact, let's just pull up the article. All right, I'm going to pull up this article. Excuse me. There was an Asian man in Los Angeles that he killed or unalived. I'm sure you can't say that other word I use on here. He unalived people in Los Angeles, and there was another Asian, right, who took the gun from him and saved everybody else's life to save more people's lives, right? And so we're going to go over this article and go into our topic because this article, it highlights what all of us so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians need to understand. We're going to pull a few scriptures, all right? We're going to hold a few scriptures. We're going to follow this up with Christ and Peter. When the Romans came to kill Christ, to unalive Christ, you understand? And Peter cut a man's ear off. We're going to go into that because that all ties into tonight's lesson. Okay, so first we're going to go into the Asian mass shooting that just happened 2 days ago. All right, 2 days ago. And we're going to tie that into how you can defend your brother and defend your people, right? Defending your nation, which is brotherhood, right? That's the ultimate form. You love your nation and love your people by obeying God. And part of that obedience to the Most High God is not being a coward, because we have no use for, we have enough cowards in the nation of Israel. We have enough black and Hispanic men that are bred coward because of the Christian church. We have enough women who are, instead of being something soft and feminine to protect, they're the ones we need protection from. We have enough cowards in our nation, man. We don't need any more. What we need are strong brothers, delicate and tender sisters in our nation, who brothers who will protect a nation of people, and a nation of sisters who are worth defending. That's what we need. You understand? So let's go into this real quick, this article. I think I'll pull it from the Los Angeles Times. All right. Authorities, this is the Los Angeles Times. All right, it says authorities identify 72-year-old man as suspected gunman in Lunar New Year mass shooting. All right, once again, this is now you hear now of course we in the Israelite School UPK, you're so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian, you have no business celebrating nobody's New Year but yours. Nobody's New Year. The oppressor here on the Western Hemisphere in America, Canada, they have a New Year January 1st, and that's because of Janus, because nothing is new in the dead of winter. But that is to commemorate their gods and their oppressors, which they're fine and they can do, right? It is absolutely okay for some old Edomite, some oppressor, to love their God and worship their gods and to celebrate their New Year. These Asians, the Moabites, and these particular are Moabites. I was going to say Ammonites, but these aren't Japanese. These Moabites have their own New Year. The Ammonites have their own New Year. Like every nation has their own God, their own culture, their own custom, their own beliefs, and they have their own New Year, their own holidays. You think those Moabite stores that you go into to buy that disgusting, god-awful, rat-infested food that you eat, you think that they have came over to America and they conform to America the way that blacks and Hispanics conform to America. But that is not what the other nations do. The other nations can maintain their own laws. They can maintain their own lifestyles, and that's because they have better leaders than you. That's the reason why. The Moabites' leadership doesn't make them join hand in hand with the oppressors who murder them, who unalive them. They make sure that they get justice and Asian hate bills passed into law. That's what the Asian leaders do. That's what the Chinese leaders do. That's what the Arabs leaders do, even though the Arabs were at war with America for the past 20 years. Since the 70s, what the hell am I talking about? Since 1979, America has been over in the Middle East trying to get that oil, and the Middle Easterns, the Arabs, which you would now call the Arabs, or the Bible calls Ishmaelites, they have been at conflict with America for 40 years, brother. And the Arabs can come over here and still secure jobs, business deals, gas stations, and chicken joints all throughout black and Hispanic neighborhoods because they have better leaders than you. Their leaders make sure they don't sell their people out. The Arab leaders, even though they're enemies with America, they can still strike business deals. Deals in Hollywood, deals in oil, deals in energy. You understand? Because they don't have piss poor leaders like blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. Well, these Moabites here in California, they were celebrating their New Year. You understand? And let that be a lesson to so-called blacks and Hispanics out there listening that look at us as a cult, as crazy, because we celebrate the days that are in the Bible to celebrate. So many nuts think we're crazy. Christians have the audacity to call us a cult and a hate group simply for following the laws of God, simply for following the high holy days that God prescribed to us in the Bible. The Bible never said to celebrate Christmas. God never said celebrate Thanksgiving, but you do it anyway because your oppressor does it. And here you are in 2023, January 1st, you celebrated your oppressor's New Year, even though you know that the New Year doesn't start in the winter. It starts in the spring. Well, the Chinese have better leaders than you, and so they can celebrate their own New Year. And this says the Lunar New Year, meaning this is their New Year. This is the Chinese New Year. I believe it's the year of the rat. And I'm not trying, that's not me being funny. That's me being serious. I believe the Chinese New Year this year is the year of the rat. If you go up to D.C., brothers in the DMV, in the D.C. school, the Maryland school, and the Virginia school know what I'm talking about. There, as you go into D.C., in Chinatown, what is that, 7th and H, where the Israelite School UPK, Captain Mashaki, and the brothers in D.C. hold camp. They're on the sidewalk. This blew my mind the first time I went up there and saw it. Chinatown is Chinatown, brother. You understand? Their culture. They have the ornaments, that the Moabite ornaments. They have the Moabite structure, right? They build their stores and restaurants like over in China. It is really a municipality of China. And so on the sidewalks in Chinatown in DC, they have the different symbols and animals that represent the New Year's of the Moabite people, of the so-called Chinese people. That blew my mind, Doc, because blacks and Hispanics have been here for 400 years, and there is nothing on the sidewalk of the Black Panther, of the Black Fist going like this, right? Just 2 years ago, there were a group of people called Black Lives Matter who sought to paint every street all throughout the United States to have Black Lives Matter, BLM, and a group of white racist oppressors known as Antifa and the Proud Boys. They would drive by the locations the Black Lives Matter would write the Black Lives Matter on the cement, on the concrete, and they would pour paint over it to block it. They don't do that in D.C. where the Chinese have Chinatown. They don't do it in L.A. where the Chinese have Chinatown. On their sidewalk in Chinatown, brother, you have the rat, the dog, the cat. Like, the Chinese are heathens, and so they make up animals that they think are more powerful than them or gives them some sort of power, and they make them a god, just like the Egyptians did. And they make them, they give them a year. They devote them to a year. They dedicate them to a year. So this year, if you're a so-called Chinese, a Moabite, this year is the year of the rat, right? Then another 2 or 4 years, it'll be the year of the scorpion, and then the year of the cat, and then the year of the dog, and then the year of the this and that, and all of it's garbage, but it's their culture. And they could have their culture in another nation's population. In another nation, which, by the way, China and America aren't friends. If you haven't, figured that out, if you didn't know that. They aren't allies. They are enemies. And although the Chinese are at war with America, trying to take over Taiwan, a little small island off the coast of China, off the coast of China, this little small tiny island, the Chinese can have Chinatown in D.C. And they can have the year of the rat, the year of the dog, painted on the sidewalks. Painted in the middle of the goddamn street. Because they don't have horrible leaders like you and I. They can come to another nation. Who are their enemies, and they can establish cities where they live and conduct business. You pick cotton here, and you don't have a land cut out here in America for you to conduct business and to live safely. But the enemies of America do. And so let that be a lesson as we're going through this topic and as we're going through this article. Well, Laisha, we're going over right now that mass shooter out there in California, the Moabite mass shooter.
Oh, yeah.
All right, we're going over that.
Earlier?
Huh?
You was telling me about him earlier? Is that the one you was telling me earlier?
It may be. It's the 72-year-old Moabite. And on the new year of the lunar Chinese, right? This is the Chinese New Year. It's called the Lunar New Year. He was a mass shooter at 72 years old. A 72-year-old Moabite. This wasn't no Edomite. This was a straight up and down China man from China. And his victims were Moabites. And so now we're going over. Right now, we going over the whole case and the whole entire ordeal. All right? So this is the Los Angeles Times. Authorities have identified the man responsible for a deadly shooting inside a Monterey Park dance studio as Hemet residents Hu Can Tran, 72. So this cat was 72 years old. His name is Hu Can Tran. Tran died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. He killed himself, for those of you who don't know what that means. The Tran died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound in a strip mall parking lot near Sepulveda and Hawthorne Boulevards in Torrance, law enforcement sources say. We still are not clear on the motive, Los Angeles County Sheriff Robert Luna said. 2 law enforcement sources said the suspect recently showed up to the Hemet police station saying his family was trying to poison him. So this was a lunatic. He's a straight up and down lunatic, just like every one of those lunatics that commit mass murder. They're all lunatics, all of them. And he's one of the lunatics, just of a different nationality. This is a Chinese lunatic. He said that his family was trying to poison him. So, of course, because his family was trying to poison him, that gives him the right to go and unalive 18 Asian people at a dance studio as they are celebrating their culture and their heritage, right? The manhunt for the shooter began after he opened fire inside Star Ballroom Dance Studio on West Garvey Avenue around 10:20 p.m. Saturday, killing 10 people and wounding 10 others. It was Lunar New Year's Eve. About 20 minutes after the shooting in Monterey Park, Tran walked into Lai Lai Ballroom and Studio in nearby Alhambra, officials said. The suspect walked in there probably with the intent to kill 2 more people. Good night, Luna said. But 2 community members disarmed him. That's the part I want right here. 2 community members. These 2 Moabites. One of them was a man, if I'm not mistaken. Guess what they did, Doc? They wasn't having this cat come up in there and genocide them.
Right.
Like he just did at that, what ballroom was that, Doc? That I said, the Star Ballroom Dance Studio. So he went in and killed 20 people. He wounded 10 people. He shot and murdered or unalived, 10. So in a total, it's 20 people that's either dead or injured because of this lunatic, this Chinese lunatic. And so he went into another ballroom because he knew that his people, the Chinese people, were celebrating this Lunar New Year, their New Year. And he was trying to hurt more people. But these two cats, they weren't having it, Elisha. They stood up and guess what they did? They unarmed him, and they are heroes in their community. Why am I bringing this up? Because tonight's topic is defending your people. And so many times, because of the Christian church, we are bred to be cowards. We don't understand what saving somebody really is. The Moabites do. Now, this is the second time in the same state, in 2 years, where some Chinese lunatic either goes to shoot up a club, a ballroom, or a church. You remember last year, there was a Chinese man in Los Angeles who went to shoot up a church.
One shot up a college, too, didn't
he? He might. That one I don't think was a Moabite. That might have been an oppressor. But these last 2 that we've heard about Moab, this is a ballroom where children are dancing and adults are having fun. The other was a church, a Moabite church. And maybe it was Vietnamese. It was Vietnamese, which, Moabite, Ammonite, take your pick. These cats here, he tried to shoot up the church, but the Moabites in the crowd, they weren't having it. You remember they beat his ass, Salakia. He tried to walk up in there with a gun and shoot people, and I don't think he murdered anybody because these Moabites stood up and they beat the brakes off his behind. They beat him, you understand, and they put cuffs behind his back, and they arrested his dumb ass and took him to jail. Now, this is the second time I've heard of a story in the last year of somebody not white or black or Hispanic that has done something like this, and the people respond differently than what black people would respond. Now, this is what I want, Elisha. Give me George Floyd, right? Give me when George Floyd was begging for his life and he was yelling to his mother. Give me that, all right? Because this is what is so important. Brothers and sisters have to understand, blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians have to understand that if you don't love your people, if you don't have the brotherhood that Christ taught us to have, then nobody will. Why don't you be the example for the brothers and sisters that are up under you to look up to? And that's something I always wondered as a child, growing up seeing brothers that were in gangs, brothers who repped their hood, whether it be the 50s or the 20s or the 12. And I always saw older brothers who condoned that type of lifestyle. I always saw older brothers and older Jakes, even sisters. I see older sisters. That's something you see now. Older black women that condone the whorish behavior of younger black women. You see older black men condoning the lifestyle that gets so many black brothers put in prison. So many brothers put in a pine box. You see so much of the older generation that doesn't say anything when it comes to the destruction of our people. If you don't say anything, if you don't be the one to emulate for brothers and sisters under you to emulate, then brother, how could you try to depend on something else or anybody else to? And this is what we're going to show, because this is what these 2 incidents, the one last year at a Chinese church and the one I just read about, this is what this is going to highlight. You got that, George Floyd?
You saying you wanted the part where
he was calling out to, this is at the end of his life. This devil Derek Chauvin still had the knee on his neck, And the brother, George Floyd, was crying out to his mom. He said, "Mom, mom, mom." And he died. What I want is the reaction of all of the people. That brother who was a testimony witness at court, at that Derek Chauvin court, I want their reaction on why they froze, right? There was one brother who took the video. He was one of the brothers who took the video. He was very pivotal in that case. And he testified at the court, Elijah. He was a shorter brother with a beard, about your skin complexion. Maybe you can find his testimony. But he testified at court. I don't remember this cat's name, but he testified at court. Then there was an older brother who was a Jake. He was older, probably about 70 years old. And he was talking at the court, and he cried. He cried. And the reason he cried was because he wished he could have done something about Derek Chauvin having a knee on his neck. So just find me, in summary, just find me a one of the testimony witnesses or some Jake who was around to see it happen but didn't do anything.
I got one right here.
Go ahead.
This is in the Miami Herald.
Mm-hmm.
It says, in times of greatest extremity, people cry out for their mothers. George Floyd, while being tortured and then killed by a white policeman, called out "Mama." Hearing this, many instantly wept in recognition, as this calling to the mother touched on the universal experience of infant helplessness. I don't know what the hell.
Infant helplessness?
Infant helplessness. Like,
read that part again.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, they saying basically he was like an infant that was helpless calling for his mother.
Right. And that's what that shows is the brother. I don't know if anybody knows, if Jake's out there know this, but when Derek Chauvin, that oppressor, that murderous police officer, Derek Chauvin, the oppressor, who is the devil the Bible speaks of, that unalived our brother, George Floyd, when he had his knee on his neck, toward the end of George Floyd's life, he started to call out for his mother. And if I'm not mistaken, Elisha, they played it in court. They played him crying out to his mother in court. And that is what struck the response of that witness testimony, that eyewitness testimony in court. It was a brother who watched it all happen. And he saw it from the very beginning, meaning he saw it before the cops even showed up. He saw George Floyd going into the liquor store, that convenience store, and he saw him walking out, and he saw the cops swarm him and have his knee on his neck, and he watched the last breath of George Floyd. And he began to cry. As he was giving his eyewitness testimony, he began to cry. As they played him crying out, he said, "Mama." And every time he said mother or mama, his mamas got faint and more faint and more faint until he just died. And what this brother is reading is the science behind the connection and the empathy you have with somebody. If they're crying out for their mother, it's like a child, a baby crying out for their mother because they want to be fed, because they need help, they need relief, they're in pain, they're hurt, something is wrong. You got children out there, you know. You could have a 4-year-old cry out for his mama if he bumped his head hard enough, if he scuffed his arm, and you see the white meat and it starts bleeding, he's going to cry out. And it does something to a adult. For an adult, a grown man like George Floyd, to cry out to his mama, people in the crowd that was watching it and they heard it, the article is saying they knew that this brother here was about to die. They knew that something was wrong. Go ahead.
Was the brother's name Charles McMillan?
I don't remember his name. Why? What you got on him?
This was a brother. This brother Charles McMillan. He was in court. Hold on. He was in court and gave his testimony in court as well about what happened, and this brother broke down crying on the stand as well.
That might be him. You can see a picture of him?
Yeah, it's a picture of him.
What do he look? Does he look a little older?
Yeah, this cat
about
right here.
60 something. Yeah, that might be him. Go ahead and read his testimony. That might be him.
Let me start. And this is from the Vice News, the source. And it says Charles McMillan broke down in tears as he again heard George Floyd crying out for his deceased mother in his dying moments.
He cried out for who?
His deceased.
His what, mama?
Deceased.
She was dead, Which, brother, that is horrible.
Gone.
Your mom, George Floyd knows his mother is gone. Right? He's crying out for his dead mom. He knows she's dead, and guess what else he knows? That he's next. which is why he's crying out for a dead woman who is his mom.
Good night.
He's crying out for her because he knows he's next. He knows that this cop here, he's not letting up because he's a murderer. He's a murderer. And so he knows this cop here is not going to let me up, and his fight is over. George Floyd, he don't have no fight in him. Why doesn't he have fight in him? Because the murderous devil who had his knee on his neck, Derek Chauvin, he was murdering him, and he didn't let him up. He didn't let him move. I don't know if you've seen the video, Ak. He didn't let him move.
Couldn't do nothing.
He couldn't do anything. He couldn't move. He could barely talk. When you heard him scream for his mother, Ak, it sounded like he started to what they call your voice goes hoarse because he has a knee on his neck. If somebody start doing this, you can't talk. That's how George Floyd sounded. He knows he's gone, so he's crying out for his deceased mother.
Right.
And mind you, as he's crying out for his deceased mom, Elisha, who's all there? Who's all there?
I mean,
there's plenty of people there. Who?
Tons
Tons of people.
of people.
There's tons of people in the audience watching. Full of who? Full of white people, full of black people. That's why they all took the stand against Derek Chauvin. Because they were there to watch it happen. Keep going.
The 61-year-old third-grade teacher took the witness stand Wednesday and cried as he watched police body camera footage of Floyd's arrest, offering the most powerful moment yet in the murder trial of former Minneapolis cop Derek Chauvin.
Mm-hmm.
I can't help but feel helpless, said McMillan, who was the first person to come upon the arrest in protest last May the 25th. I don't have a mother either, so I understand him.
Say it again. Read what that brother said.
He said, I don't have a mother either, so I understand him.
Brother, this cat here that watched it happen, all unfold from beginning to end, he said, I don't have a mom either. My mom died too. And he watched George Floyd cry out to he didn't know his mom was dead at the time, but he heard him cry out to his mama. And that did something to this brother. Remember this. Just think about, close your eyes if you're listening to this online, and just think about what this brother is reading. And put yourself there. Imagine you watching some brother die, and he's crying out to his mom, and he's 44. A 44-year-old man who is helpless, crying out to a woman, crying out to his mama. Imagine that. Just close your eyes and think about that. And think about watching it happen, watching it all unfold. And think about the empathy that you feel for somebody in that situation. Think about the empathy. Think about how you would feel, and think about how helpless you see this person, and think about how you could give him a hand. Think about this as you're listening to this article and listening to this brother who was there to witness everything. I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to think about being there watching George Floyd be murdered. And you're not watching him being murdered like Terrence Crutcher. He's not getting shot. He's having a knee on his neck, meaning it's a slow, painful death. The air is being cut out right from him. He can't breathe. He can't breathe, which is what he said. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. That's where that comes from. Him and the brother up there, Gardner in New York. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. And so now I can't breathe. Just remember, you're there. You're there, and you're there watching Derek Chauvin put his knee. Hey, brother, when you watch this video, this devil was the oppressor is such the devil, Elisha. You can see him as George Floyd is trying to wiggle a little bit to get a little breathing room. That devil, he put more force on his neck. I mean, you can clearly see it. He did. You know, you could tell somebody's taking a knee if they lean forward on their knee. He leaned forward more, like he's trying to dig in even more. He's trying to dig in even more. And I want you to think about this. I want you to just close your eyes and envision you are there with George Floyd, and you're this brother, and you're watching it. You're watching it. You're one of the eyewitnesses. You're watching Derek Chauvin do it. Keep going, Elisha.
McMillan's testimony marked the 5th time a witness cried while on the stand at Hennepin County Courthouse for the high-profile trial.
5 eyewitnesses already cried before this brother. I'm sorry, 4. He marks the 5th.
He was the 5th.
4 brothers and sisters. There was a woman, black woman up there too, who cried. 5 of them now. They all just cried. Why? Somebody, not you, Elisha. Somebody tell me why they all cried. They witnessed this, brother. I mean, the answer is clear and obvious. So somebody answer and say why these 5 black people cried as they got up there in court to give the testimony of what they saw that day, which is what an eyewitness testimony is. You're giving your account of what you saw. I saw this man get on top of him and put a knee on his neck. You're giving your testimony of what you saw, what you heard, while you were there. Somebody answer me and tell me, why did they cry? Let's look on Facebook or on YouTube.
Yeah, the sister might be on YouTube.
To see why they cried. All right, let's go. Let's see. I'll give you a second. But let's see if someone can answer that for me. Why did the eyewitnesses that watched George Floyd be unalived so cruelly, why did they cry in court when they gave their account? Not anybody new. I see the people who checked in. Shalom, sis. It's a sister on here. Naranjo. Abril Naranjo. Shalom, sis. Yeah, she a sister. I'm assuming she's from the tribe of Isupk, or maybe from, Ash. She could be Asherite, but I'm sure she speaks Spanish. Give the sister a hand. And the sister I just said, April, right, in Spanish, Naranjo, she said because they were helpless. Give the sister a hand. Get a sister a hand. Gad, okay, Salakia says she's from the tribe of Gad. Most High Christ says.
That's a good answer.
That's a great answer because that is the right answer. Because they were helpless, Ak. They were helpless. You know how, now, if you're somebody who's never been in a predicament like that, you may not understand how it feels to be helpless. But so many of us, because we're Black, Hispanic, and Native American Indian, we're helpless all the goddamn time, Ak. Our entire life is feeling helpless. We have no power. None. And our church, the Christian pastors and our leaders don't make it any better because with the resources and power they have, do they think to make life easier for us? Hell no. They make life harder for us. So now we're in a predicament where we're even more helpless. And so they cried and they wept on the stand. 5 people. 4 of them were grown men, 60 years old, crying. One of them was a sister, all up there on the stand, bawling. I watched the tape, I went back and I looked at it, and they were all crying because, like the sister said, they are helpless, and they knew it. And so what does that mean then? If they were helpless and they were on the stand, now mind you, this trial happened when? After George Floyd had died, after he was unalived. Meaning they're thinking about what? What are they thinking about? If they're helpless, what does that mean? What are they thinking about? You know?
They're thinking about... if they're helpless, they're thinking about, I don't want to say just being helpless. But they're thinking about, like the brother said, he's thinking about, he said, I can relate, my mother's deceased.
So what is he thinking about? The sister said they were afraid that they would retaliate against them. That's a good answer, sis, but that's not the answer. Because why did they feel so helpless? Why were they so helpless?
Why did they feel so helpless?
Yeah, why in court, after the situation happened, why were they up there crying? We know they're crying because they were helpless.
Well, I would say oppression.
No, that's a good answer, but that's not the answer. I'm going to give it to you. Right? Does the sister, April, you want to try it again, sis? Does the sister want to give it another try? Give another answer. Why were they so helpless? Meaning, why did they regret? I just gave you the answer. What did they regret? While they were up on the stand thinking about George Floyd, they watched the man die right in front of them. Remember that. And they watched him be unalived by a man who, he didn't get shot. This cat just had a knee on his neck. That's a good answer, sis, but that's not it. I'm going to give it to y'all. All right? I'm going to give it to you. The reason that they felt so helpless, the reason that they were on the stand crying because they were helpless, because they wish that they could have went back and did something to make sure George Floyd didn't die. You understand? Which is why I said they regret it, because what does it mean to regret? They wish they had went back and did something differently. They wish they could have saved him. That's what they wish, which is what all of them said. And in their testimony, you can look this up. They all said that that's why they were crying. They were up there, and I wish that I could have did something differently. If I could have gone back, I would have did something. I would have stopped this from happening. How would you have stopped it from getting that devil's knee off your brother's neck? All of them, Elijah Shai, All of them wish they could have went back to stop this brother from dying, from being unalived. Now, back to the article with the Moabite. What did those two Moabites do when that lunatic Moabite came in and started to shoot up the damn Alhambra ballroom? What did they do? Did they sit back and watch it happen? What did they do?
They disarmed him.
They did what?
Disarmed him.
What did they do?
Disarmed him.
They did what, Ak?
Disarmed him.
They watched it?
Disarmed him.
Did they watch this lunatic with a gun? Remember, Derek Chauvin didn't pull out his gun. He had a knee on somebody's neck. He didn't have a gun that you had to disarm. It's about 15 people that watched George Floyd get unalived, Doc. Any one of them could have went up and just pushed the devil off of George Floyd's neck. You understand that? Listen, you graduated Hebrew Academy. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Because, brother, let's move on. Because there's nobody in here that's going to... I'm not watching a brother get his knee on his neck. I don't give a damn if he's in the school or not. Somebody is not going to die in front of me as I sit there and have a camera phone out and not do anything. I don't charge the brothers who watched it. I don't charge that sister who was up there crying. Why? Because they're Christians. They don't know better. But I do. You understand? I do know better. You understand? You had something you want to say, Elisha?
Salakia, sir. Yeah, what you bringing out is heavy. And I would just like to point out, because of that, that God offered that Christianity and us being oppressed in that slavery.
That's right.
We are being conditioned because we have no power because, the Lord isn't with us as a nation. Mm-hmm. We don't have any power. We think our power is in voting. We think our power is in Christianity. We think our power is in joining hand in hand like MLK taught us.
That's right.
But that's no power at all. And this is a prime example of what happened to the brother George Floyd. It's no different than a slave master buck breaking a grown man in front of a crowd of people.
That's right.
It's no different.
That's right.
Derek Chauvin, Salakia, did the same exact thing to George Floyd that the slave master, if you use the example in the movie Roots, like he did to Toby, or Kuta Kinte. He broke them.
That's
right. He broke every brother and sister spirit that was on that stand, like you said, who's full of regret. Because I'm pretty sure a lot of slaves wanted to do the same thing.
That's right. And they always wished, if I could have gone back, I would have did something differently. Well, listen, these Moabites didn't have that feeling. Why? Because they did something when the time came. And this is the whole point of this, and me bringing this out, because this is the point of the class. Defending your people is the title of this class. Brother, you can't, and this is going to help so many blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. This is to say, get this sister another hand. She's from the tribe of Gad. This is really going to help the tribe of Gad, who just allow, we're all the same. Judites do it too. All 12 tribes do it. We allow everybody to come in and exploit us and harm our people. When you go to those reservations, because I have gone to those reservations, because my mother is from the tribe of Gad, as you know. And, brother, anybody can go to those powwows. Native American Indian women are the number one trafficked women in America.
That's right.
When you look up the FBI statistics of the girls who go missing the most, by far, it's not even a close run. It's not even a close statistic. Native Indian girls, they by far lead that stat. By far. Meaning there's nobody even in arm's reach. Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian women, they go missing more than anybody. Yet and still, Elisha, you can go on one of those reservations, Some oppressor can just walk on those reservations and take them, and nobody says anything. Nobody would even do anything. You go into the ghetto, just a few months ago, that oppressor who kidnapped that sister on Prospect, she was out there working. Lord be with her. And the oppressor, he kidnapped her and her friends. And he killed 3 of her friends, and she escaped. And nobody even did anything about it, It's just like another day in Kansas City. It's just another day on the Menominee Reservation. It's just another day on the Sioux Reservation. It's just another day on the Choctaw Reservation. It's just another day in the Barrio. This is just any given day, some sister, some child, some black and Hispanic child is going to go missing. Well, guess what else, Elisha? It's just any given day that some brother, he's just going to be unalived by the cops. It's just so normal. You sit there and you watch it and you do nothing. You know why? Because we're Christian, Because we're Christian. You understand? And that's what's so important to understand about this. That Moabite who saved those other people in that Alhambra dance studio in Los Angeles. Sister said Gad is ruthless for real, for real. Listen, sis, at one time, the so-called Native American Indians, they were ruthless. They were. When she says ruthless, she means that they would stand up for their people, like Sitting Bull and Red Cloud. But you know what happened to Sitting Bull, sis? Any guy out there knows what happened to Sitting Bull after his people were conquered? After the white coats sided with the British? Do you know there were traitors in the North American Indians? Do you know that? That were called the white coats. Look them up. They traded, betrayed their people just like Dr. King for better food, for land, for a safer place to live, just like your Christian preachers. And they sold Sitting Bull out. They sold Red Cloud out. They sold all of the Gadite chiefs out, all of the Native American Indians out for a piece of the American dream. Just to salute the stars and the stripes, just so they can pledge allegiance to the flag. And the oppressor came and they got Sitting Bull. And guess what Sitting Bull did in his last 20 years of his life? Some ruthless war battering combat veteran. Sitting Bull and Red Cloud, they fought battles and wars to defend this land from the oppressors who ultimately stole it from them. Guess what happened to Sitting Bull? Somebody guess. He was performing in that, what's that white man's name? His name is on the tip of my tongue, Billy, is it Billy the Kid? Not Billy the Kid. It's one of them devils back in the old westerns, and he had a.
It wasn't Jesse James.
Not Jesse James. Buffalo Bill. The Wild Buffalo Bill show. It's all the same. We're not going to get along for a long time. The sister said something. She said that it's crazy that everyone thinks that Gad is all the same. Here's the issue, sis. It's sad that Gad doesn't see themselves as all the same, which is the story I'm telling you about right now, April Naranjo. This is the problem. Gadites have the same issue as the 12 tribes of Israel. We don't join ourselves together with each other. Instead, you're going to join yourself together with the FBI. That's what the tribe of Gad did to get help with all the missing Native Indian girls. What did the FBI do when all those missing Native Indian girls went missing? What did they do? Somebody take a wild guess. They didn't do anything until 2022. 2021, 22. Just recently, there was a bill passed to even allow the FBI to look into missing Native Indian girls' records. Because before 2022, for 600 years, if a Native Indian girl went missing, for the past 150 years, if a Native Indian girl went missing, America didn't do anything. It was in their laws to not do anything if a missing Native Indian girl went missing. You know why? Because of the disobedience to the Most High God from the tribe of Gad, just like from the tribe of Judah, because of our lack of brotherhood to one another. That's what I was just saying. And it's easy to blame the oppressor because he is the devil the Bible speaks of. But what about the sellouts that was from the tribe of Gad? What about the sellouts in the Pueblo Indians down there? Where is that? Zacatecas? Where is that? Tamaulipas? What are they doing down there now? What is the state of the Pueblo Indians now? Where is the state of Gad now? What is the state of the tribe of Judah now? We just talked about how our brother just got a knee on his neck and was unalived, Elisha, for 9 minutes, crying out to his dead mother. His deceased mother, he's crying out to as blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians sit and watch, Elisha, as they sit and watch and do nothing. You know why? Because of our lack of brotherhood. That's the reason why. Our lack of brotherhood, which is the fault of the Christian church and our piss poor leaders. And so Sitting Bull, going back to my point, Elisha, Sitting Bull, he was in the Wild Buffalo Bill show his last 20 years of living. He got to escape into doing the Wild Buffalo Bill show because America had a bounty on Sitting Bull's head because of all of the cavalry and all of the Buffalo soldiers he killed. Sitting Bull had a body count. He had a high body count of American soldiers that came to take his life. And because of that, America had a huge bounty on his head, Elisha. And so what did he do? He teamed up with Buffalo Bill and became an attraction in the Buffalo Bill Cody show. And he would go around South Dakota, North Dakota, Canada, North America, South. He would go everywhere, and perform with this oppressor who was responsible for taking his land. Do you know why the tribe of Gad had to resort to that? Do you know why the Pueblo Indians had to resort to that? Do you know why the tribe of Gad is on reservations in the land that belongs to them? The reason, the whole class topic tonight, because we don't defend one another. You know what we do, Elisha? We point fingers at each tribe. Well, the Mexicans do this. Well, the Pueblo Indians do that. Well, the Gadites do this. Well, the Puerto Ricans and Mexicans hate each other. Dominicans and Puerto Ricans, they hate each other. But we're all the same people, and that's our problem. Our problem isn't the fact that the oppressor is the devil the Bible speaks of. Our problem is our leaders, our horrible, piss poor leaders. They don't teach us how to love one another. Because if blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians learn to love one another, if we learn what the Bible says about brotherly love from our King Christ, guess what? The Pueblo Indians would have never got kicked off of their land. Why in the hell do you think the Pueblo Indians ended up? Pueblo is a Spanish word. They went down there to Mexico because they got kicked out of North America by who? By white people, by other North American Indians. Why in the hell do you think Sitting Bull was in the Wild Buffalo Bill show? He was in there because the white people conquered him. I think Elisha that every white man that tried to come and conquer Sitting Bull, he killed them all. He killed every last one of them. So how did they catch Sitting Bull? How did they catch him? Other North American Indian traders who never learned to love other North American Indians, who never learned how to love other black people, who didn't learn how to love other Hispanics, who didn't learn how to love the children of slaves, their brothers and their sisters, because of this sick, disgusting Christian religion. Christianity is the reason, and poor black leaders and Hispanic and Native Indian leaders are the reason why Sitting Bull was conquered. Is the reason why this land was taken from the North American Indians. Is the reason why brothers get murdered by cops for 9 minutes as they scream for their deceased mother, and 5 people watch it and nothing happens. That's because of Christianity. It's not because the oppressor is cruel. The oppressor is the devil the Bible speaks of. But he would never be allowed to even harm one of us if we had brotherhood, if we obeyed God, if we did the things that are in the Bible for us to do. Give me that scripture. Give me what give me when the Romans came to come to get Christ, and Peter cut the centurion's ear off. Go ahead.
It's like I said, if I may, real quick, we don't value each other. Like the sister was saying that, people don't recognize that Gadites are different. Just like Judites, we don't recognize that we're the same.
That's right.
We think that we're different. We think that we're Crips. We think that we're Bloods. We think because we're from the 50s, the 20s, the 40s, and so on and so forth, that we're different. Because we don't value each other, this is what I want to say. Because we don't value each other, we'll never have forgiveness and compassion for each other.
That's right.
We'll never have forgiveness and compassion. And you have to have forgiveness for your nation, for your brother.
That's right.
In order to move forward how the Lord wants us to move forward.
That's right.
Because if we don't, we'll stay separated. That's
right.
We'll stay separated. We'll think that the differences outweigh the things that make us the same.
That's right.
When the Lord said that we should separate from everyone else and come together as the 12 tribes of Israel.
That's right.
It don't matter what tribe you're from.
Yeah, right.
It don't matter what tribe you're from. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, right. And you know the reason why we think that way, and it's no fault of the sisters. Listen, I got you. I know you was clarifying, but this is the reason why. It's no fault of ours. It's because of the Christian church. Horrible, piss poor, black, Hispanic, and Native Indian leaders. Native Indian chiefs who allow white people to grab their Native Indian sisters up off of the reservation. Where in the hell is all of the grown Native Indian men to defend and willing to die for all of the Native Indian girls on the Pueblo reservations, on the Sioux reservations, on the Choctaw reservation, on the Cherokee reservations, on the Chickasaw reservations, for all of the Reubenites that live down there in Zacatecas, Mexico? Where are all of the brothers to defend them? They're out serving a white Jesus. They're out loving a white Christ. They're out being Christians. And because of that, they're weak. When the Bible makes you strong. When you listen to Christ and you read the Bible the way we do here in the UPK, you learn the brotherhood that this brother's about to read. You're going to learn how to defend your sister, how to defend your brother. And I don't mean through violence. I never once said that cop, Derek Chauvin, that murderer, that somebody had to be violent toward him to get him off of George Floyd's neck. But by God, my God, you have to get his knee off of the brother's neck, Elisha. That is not acceptable. You don't have to go and punch the cop. I ain't tell you to pull your guns out on the cop like the Black Panther Party did. But you can't allow your brothers and your sisters to get kidnapped and to be unalived, Doc. That cannot happen. But here's something else, and this is the second part to this. This is the best way that you're going to defend your people, brother. This is the best way you're going to defend your people, sister. You have to be the brother or the sister that another brother or sister can depend on. That's the most important part. Because how could a drug dealer save George Floyd's life, Elisha? How could that happen? You know they say George Floyd he did drugs, right? He did drugs. How could you sell drugs, but then you go and save George Floyd's life? So let me get this straight. You sell drugs, you're a drug dealer. But then you go and you save George Floyd from that cop, Derek Chauvin. Well, guess what happens if George Floyd lives, Elisha? Guess what happens then? You're going to sell him drugs. And he's going to overdose on your drugs that you sold him. How could you be somebody who loves their people, but you do everything that goes against your people? If you want to defend your people, guess what you're going to have to do? You're going to have to come into UPK and learn to be perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect.
That's right.
You're going to have to learn to put away drugs. You're going to have to learn to put away crime. You're going to have to learn to put away sin. That's what you're going to learn to do. You're going to learn to put away being a gossiping bitch, because that doesn't save any black woman's life.
Sure
that kills them. You know what a gossiping bitch does? It kills black men. She's talking to this brother about this brother. Guess what's going to happen? Next thing you know, them two are going to be shooting, fighting, hurting each other because of a gossiping bitch. If you're a gossiping bitch, you don't save black men's lives. You don't even save your own life. You have to stop being a gossiping whore in the streets. You have to stop being a sister who a sister who strips and I don't know if sisters are even strippers anymore with Instagram and Facebook. I think
it's OnlyFans.
Yeah, OnlyFans. That's what it is.
There you
Why
go.
not? OnlyFans. You know, look, he knows. Elisha knows. He knows about OnlyFans. I'm just joking. And that's what it is now, Elisha. You don't have to go be a stripper. Now, every black and Hispanic woman, you turn on Instagram, and the first thing you see is a naked black woman. Naked. I saw a sister on Facebook, her breast completely out, Doc. And I said, this is not pornography? Isn't this there's a thing called softcore pornography. But they don't care about any of that, Doc, because black and Hispanic women are just the whores of the earth now. That's who is the whores of the earth. Well, guess what, sister? You can't be a whore of the earth if you intend on saving black women. How are you going to save the kids and save... Sister Salaki, sisters kill me, Elisha. They all for the kids. They all about the kids, and they got kids. And every whore I met and see on that Facebook, you go to their original profile page, they all are mothers. And that's the thing that's the most sad about you seeing a whore, a sister that sells her body, or a sister who's promoting a whoring lifestyle. They all are mothers, all of them. They all have sons and daughters, and they're a whore. How in the world are you going to save the next generation if you're a whore? What does that do for little boys? What does that do for little girls? So what, are you going to be naked in front of a child? And because you're naked in front of a child, what does that do? Somebody tell me. It's now going to sexualize that boy. So now the only woman he's ever going to have sex with is a whore. And the girl, your daughter, forget about it. She's going to be just like mama. She's going to be just like mama, just like Bernice Burgos' daughter, who twerks right in front of her mother. They have twerk competitions together on Instagram. I'm not making this up. Go look it up. They have twerk competitions together, mother and daughter, dressing naked, having sex with the same men, like Lori Harvey. Whore. That's what happens when you don't obey God. Now, how could a whore or a drug dealer or somebody that lives an alternative lifestyle, how could they ever save anybody? How could you ever have world peace? How could you ever save blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians if you're a sinner? You can't do it. It's impossible. But what you could do is come into UPK. What you can do is sit in this class, you can ask questions, and you can learn on how not to be a sinner, but how to save your people, because that is the first step, Ak. The first step is being right with yourself. You have to first be yourself. You have to first not be a person that needs saving. Imagine you go to save somebody, and you are a whore. Somebody needs to come and save you from the strip pole. You understand? How could you sell drugs and then you go and sell a brother? You go and save a brother. You're going to sell him drugs right after you save his life. He's going to overdose on your drugs. You're not doing any good for anybody. You're not doing any good for anybody. You're not even doing yourself any good. You're hurting yourself. You first have to save yourself. You can't do it by yourself. You have to come in here and let the men of God do that. How in the hell do you know what are you doing about yourself? You don't know. That's why you've been going through your entire life failing and struggling with everything. You struggle with drug addiction. You struggle with prostitutes. You struggle with whores. You struggle with having sex with all of those men. You struggle with everything because you can't do it by yourself. You have to let the men of God come in. You have to come in here and let the men of God teach you what to do. You brothers that's so stubborn and no man can tell me what to do. Brother, you have to stop being so stubborn and you have to come in here and let the men of God tell you what to do so you don't be a danger to yourself or to your people. That's the only way it's gonna help. That's the only way things are going to get better in the Black and Hispanic community. Isn't that what everybody wants, Elisha? Everybody wants Blacks and Hispanics and Native Indians to be better. We need more Black unity. Well, we can't have it if you're a stinking drug addict. If you smoke weed and do crack and dip and you wet, I messaged you in that post. Them sisters on there. I said, man, this is 2004.
They own it.
These sisters still smoking wet like they're from Kansas City, Missouri. Ugh, yikes. You're smoking wet on New Year's to celebrate your oppressor's New Year. You can't help anybody. Who are you helping? You can't be a whore and then you have children? You're not doing anybody any good. You're a brother who is just a lustful pig.
That's right.
You're not doing anybody any good. You can't save George Floyd. You would have been just like those 5 witnesses up there crying, wishing they would have did something better. If you want to learn how to be better, you have to come in and UPK for that.
That's right.
Go ahead, Ike. You had something you want to say?
Kind of, sir, if I may. I was looking at this video earlier, and his brother was talking about he has a channel on YouTube, and he talks about all the crimes that happen right here locally in Kansas City. I sent you a video. That same brother, but this other story was a 15-year-old who shot another girl in the face over a $20 sack of weed because he didn't want to. He got the weed from her. He wouldn't give it back He wouldn't give it back to her. She confronted him. He got angry and shot her in the face. Right now, the brother in the video. This is how we think. You know what I mean? This is why I'm so glad that Commander General Yohana has kept the truth pure.
Most high
because
Christ.
I would be thinking the same way these brothers in the streets think.
Yeah, right.
He's charging the 15-year-old saying, well, he could have got a job and paid for the weed.
Yeah.
He could have, got credit for the bag of weed. But here in the UPK, we would tell sisters and brothers that you shouldn't be smoking weed.
That's right.
You shouldn't be selling weed.
That's right.
Because drugs and sinning against the Most High God will get you killed.
That's right.
And that is really love.
That's right.
You understand? That's really love, man.
That's right.
When you think about it, he's telling them he's giving all these other alternatives.
Yeah.
To how the sister didn't die. She's brain dead for the rest of her life.
She's dead.
You understand? She can't talk more than 2 words.
Yeah.
And he's 15, about to go do 30 years because of drugs. Yep. Because no one has loved our nation enough to tell us that drugs is unlawful according to the Bible outside of Commander General Yohana and the men in ISUPK. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, right. Get it, brother, a hand, man, because that's the absolute truth. If y'all didn't hear him, his brother said a 15-year-old shot a woman in the face over drugs, and now she's brain dead. He's going to go do 30 years over drugs. You know what that's really over, Ak? It's over not loving your people.
That's right.
Why in the world wouldn't he shoot a black woman in the face? You never taught him how to love other black people. You taught him how to love America, how to salute the flag, how to pledge allegiance to America, how to love America, have sex with white women like O.J. Simpson, have sex with women outside of your race like Kanye West and Dr. Dre and Martin Luther King Jr. You taught him how to love every other nation except for his own. Why wouldn't they be in the streets shooting everybody that's 15-year-old over drugs and weed? They never were taught how to love other black people. They were taught to salute the flag. Well, guess what, Elisha? He's going to do 30 years, and he loves America. She's going to be brain dead for the rest of her life, and she loves drugs, and she loves America. Why wouldn't they be like this, Zach? The Christian church have failed black people. That's the reason why brothers is like that. That's the reason why sisters are in that type of predicament. Why wouldn't they not love black people? You never taught them how to. You know what you taught them, Elisha? How to listen. This is something that always this bothers me to this day. Black women search for love all over Instagram and Facebook and social media. They want a man. They want to be loved. Brother, do you know? General Hyman brought it out last night. They leave every man they get with. But why wouldn't they leave every man they get with? That's the question that you should ask yourself. I know it's one type of brother that thinks, well, damn, why are so many sisters divorcing all of these men? Then you should. There's another brother who's going to say, but why wouldn't they divorce all of these men? What older black and Hispanic woman from their community taught them how to be mothers and wives and sisters? You never taught them how to be mothers and wives and sisters. You know what you taught them how to do? Use what they got to get what they want. And now 4 baby daddies later, 40 years old, 2 divorcements later, they have no man. Their children hate their guts. They have 4 men on child support who hate their guts. And they are horrible, monstrous, disastrous bitches that are in the black community.
That's right.
But why wouldn't they be when that is what you made them? Don't you understand? That is what your Christian church made black women. Evil, monstrous bitches. And you made black men evil, weak cowards who would shoot a sister in the face over a dime bag of weed. You made us drug addicts, Dr. King. That's his dream.
That's right.
You made us lustful, whore-loving bastards. That was Dr. King's dream. And it is playing out perfectly. It is playing out perfectly. People so many times say, if Dr. King was alive, he would be so disappointed. He would love it. He would love to look at Facebook and see hoes all up and down Facebook. As soon as you put in a search bar of Instagram, hoes everywhere. You mean to tell me Martin Luther King Jr. wouldn't love that, Elisha?
Oh, yeah.
He would love, at 94, he would take that blue pill, because they didn't have blue pills in the 60s when he was assassinated. They didn't have all those honey packs. They didn't have the blue chews. That's the new stuff, Elisha. Blue chews and honey packs and Viagra. Cialis. They didn't have that during Dr. King's time. If Dr. King was alive, not only would he not be not impressed with what's going on, brother, he would indulge in it like you wouldn't even believe. You think that he loved hoes in the 60s? You should, if he was living.
Not no sisters though, so like.
Oh, he don't care. He put that rod in every hole.
In anything.
In anything, he didn't care, because he was a lustful bastard, and that was his dream. His dream was to be a lustful bastard and to have sex with who he wanted to have sex with. And now your sons do have sex with who they want to have sex with. The only problem is when your son does it, he goes to jail. When your son does it, guess what happens to him? Some girl is going to cry rape, and he's going to go to prison for the rest of his life. He's going to ruin his youth because of Dr. King's dream. He's going to get some girl pregnant at 16 because of Dr. King's dream. He's going to follow some loser on the block who shoots up the entire neighborhood and sells drugs to pregnant women, all because he's following Dr. King's dream. Dr. King would love 2023. He would absolutely love it. He would be on OnlyFans all day. He would be on Instagram all day. He would be on Facebook all day, Backpage, Black People Meet. He would be on every prospect corner to look for the new hoes with the blue chew and the honey packs and the Viagra and Cialis. At 94, he would love it. He would absolutely love it, because he was a sexual deviant, and now you're a sexual deviant. That's the reason why brothers shoot girls in the face at 15 over a dime bag of weed, over a small amount of drugs. You know why? Because they're simply doing what they were taught. And that's how you better look at life. You better look at it as, well, okay, these brothers are over here, all of them gangbang. All of them wear tight clothes. All of them are effeminate. But Elisha, why wouldn't they be? Who taught them anything else, Ak?
That's right.
Who taught them the laws of God? Who taught them to take their brother to counsel if they have an ought with their brother? If their brother offends them, who taught them that? Not T.D. Jakes, Ak. Not your pastor. Not your imam. Not Dr. King. Not the Nation of Islam. When has Farrakhan ever said, well, this is what Christ said, to take your brother to counsel if you have an offense with him? He doesn't even believe in Jesus Christ. He's a goddamn stinking Muslim. So he doesn't believe in the Bible. He doesn't believe in Christ. So then who has taught them anything other than to hate black people? the Christian church out. And that's what they're going to do. And that's why it's so important that you don't blame and charge these young brothers and these sisters for what they do. You blame the older Christian generation who still walks around with those big, ugly, stupid hats and those big, ugly, broad-shoulder dresses and pantsuits, who give all of the pork to that pastor, who gives all of their money to that pastor, and who gives all of their time to that pastor. That's who you better blame, because that is the sole reason why brothers are shooting up Chicago. That's the sole reason why King Vine is dead. It's the reason why so many brothers are locked up. It's the reason why so many sisters are filled with STDs who don't give a damn about anything in life other than being a whore. It's the fault of those older black Christian leaders. Read what you got, Ak.
This is not First John chapter 18. When we start at verse 1 for the context.
Please.
Verse 1. When Yahushua had spoken these words, he went forth with his disciples over the brook Cedron, where was a garden, into the which he entered and his disciples. And Judas also, which betrayed him, knew the place, for Yahushua oft times resorted thither with his disciples.
Mm-hmm.
Judas then, having received a band of men and officers from the chief priests and Pharisees, cometh thither with lanterns and torches and weapons.
So here we go. We picking this up right here. This is when our King Christ, a black man from the tribe of Judah, comes and goes to this place, and that traitor like Dr. King and Malcolm X and O.J. Simpson and your Christian pastor comes with the Roman army, with some Roman soldiers. What did it say? A band, meaning it was a few brothers. It was a few Roman army soldiers who came to get Christ, who came to arrest Christ. This is what the brother is reading right here. All right, so go ahead, pick up where you left off.
Verse 4. Yahushua, therefore, knowing all things that should come upon him, went forth and said unto them.
How does he know all things? Let me help you out with this, because Christians have made it a religion to say, well, he knows everything. He knows, that's another thing. They say Jesus is God, and when it says that he knows everything and that Christ knew he was going to be taken, it's because it's in prophecy. It's in the Old Testament. It's in Isaiah. You understand? There's prophecies about Christ coming here. Well, when I say coming here, meaning coming to earth, right? He's being born by a sister named Mary and a brother named Joseph. And he read all these prophecies like we read it now in the Bible. And so the reason he knew that he was going to be taken, and he knew he had to die on the cross, and he knew all of these things would happen, is simply because he did something your pastor doesn't. And that's read the Bible. Christ read the Bible,
that's right. And
so he knew the things that were going to happen. Guess who else knows what's going to happen? Commander Juniana.
That's right.
You know why? Because read my mind and finish my thoughts. How does Commander Juniana know what's going to happen? Is it spooky? Is it magic? Is it superstitious? It's because he reads this right here.
He knows the prophet.
He reads the Bible. He reads Genesis, and he reads Revelation, and he reads Exodus, and he reads Joshua and Matthew. He knows what's going to happen because it's in the Bible. That's the reason why. So all of this, Christians made it a whole religion that this spooky, superstitious Jesus knows where you. They make Jesus like Christmas. Like Santa Claus. He knows when you've been bad or good. Harry Potter. A spooky wizard magic spell. Ooh, spooky, spooky, spooky. That's Hollywood, man. At one time, you're going to have to grow up in your life. At some point, you're going to have to become a full adult. And you're going to have to stop believing in Hollywood and spooky, superstitious garbage. Someday, you're going to have to become a full-grown adult sister and a full-grown adult brother. And you're going to have to realize that this Bible isn't fairy tale. It's just being a grown adult man. That's all. You just have to be a grown adult to understand. It isn't spooky, Elisha. He don't know if you've been bad or good. Christ don't know if you've been bad or good. He knew he was going to die, and he knew he was going to be taken. Why? Because of the prophecies that are in the Bible.
That's right.
That's why, man.
Yeah, I'm right.
He read the Bible, man. And that's what we are experts in here. You better understand that. Keep going.
Yahushua, therefore, knowing all things that should come upon him, went forth and said unto them, Who seek ye? or yea?
Who seek ye?
Who seek ye?
Mm-hmm.
Verse 5. They answered him, Yahushua of Nazareth. Yahushua said unto them, I am he. And Judas also, which betrayed him, stood with them. So like verse
traitor.
6.
That's your white coat, sis. Where's the sister at, man? April. Abril. That's your white coats for the tribe of Gad and the tribe of Reuben, who sold North American Indians out because they didn't see the value in their own people, because they didn't see the value in a young squaw on the reservation. So it was easier to sell them out to the Americans, to sell them out to the cavalry, to sell them out to the Buffalo Soldiers. It was easier to do that, Elisha. Just like Judas of Iscariot. It was easier for him to just sell Christ out. Why? Because he's going to get a reward for it.
That's right.
And that's the problem with all of you stinking Christians. You don't see the value in anything other than money. Your lust, your burning lust for sex and an orgasm and money is the only thing you see the value in. You don't see the value in George Floyd. That's why you didn't help him. That's why he was dying and crying out for his mama, and you didn't do anything to stop anybody from murdering that brother because you don't see the value in black people. You don't see the value in sisters being on. You don't see the value in sisters, so you let them be on Instagram all day in thongs with their breast out, cutting a pineapple. A sister, they just find. Listen, brother, let me help you young brothers out with something. I was young and I was, full of seed once, and I just had to release that thing, and I was a tail-chasing son of a gun. And I know that you just want to look for the biggest behind that you can find and the biggest breast, and you want to go plant that seed right in there. Let me help you out with something, young brothers. Brothers that's in high school and young adults, young men. Brother, don't ever have sex with a whore. Don't ever do it. She is going to ruin your life.
That's right.
If she has a big behind and a big breast, that doesn't mean she's going to be a good woman. Let me just help you young brothers out with that. I know that rod is on fire because it just sees that body and you want to have her. And that's good. That's healthy. A young brother's supposed to be excited about it, a sister. But don't go and do it. What you should do is you should get to know that sister and court her. Go to her father and ask her. Because when you see these sisters on Instagram and Facebook, and this always gets me, Elisha, it makes me laugh. Because you know how sick you have to be to comment under a stranger's post and tell them how bad you want them? There's brothers all throughout them hoes comments, and they telling them, oh man, the things I would do to you, how much? I'm just, brother, it's sickening. I know they're all stinking Christians. I know they all listen to T.D. Jakes on Sunday. They're just lustful bastards like Judas of Iscariot. Just like Judas of Iscariot was a lustful man for money, your pastor is a lustful man for vagina and money. That's what he is. Just like Judas. And you brothers better learn that lesson. She's cutting a pineapple and breast out. And she's doing it on purpose, which is another lesson from young brother. You got to teach them, Elijah. Teach them. Teach them young brothers. Brother, you realize that she's doing that for you to see it. You think sisters is walking around with juicy on the back of their behinds on accident? They're doing it so you can come up to them and say, hey, girl, I ain't never seen a girl as pretty as you. What do you say to him, Elisha? Tell us all what you say to him when you go up to him. I'm just messing. I'm playing with the brother. Get a brother hands, man. Brother hardcore. Got every rib in Kansas City. But listen, they want you to come up to them and try to get their number so you can have sex with them. That's what she's a whore. That's her job. You have to be more cunning. You have to understand that this sister is just a child. That's all. That's right. She just needs some man to tell her what to wear, where to be, what to eat, what to do. That's all Eve needs, You, on the other hand, are chasing after tail because you're lustful. Well, guess who else was lustful, Elisha? Guess who else was lustful? The man that sold our King Christ out. He was lustful too. But he wasn't lustful for tail. He wasn't lustful for hoes that had juicy on their behind, cutting pineapples on Instagram with their breast out on purpose. Now, he was lustful for gold, for silver, for gain, for personal gain. That's what he was lustful for, Elisha. And guess what? He got it. He got the silver that he was so lusting after. He got it, Elisha. He got it. Keep going. Keep reading.
Kind. Verse 6. As soon then as he had said unto them, I am he, they went backward and fell to the ground. Mm-hmm. Verse 7. Then asked he them again, whom seek ye? And they said, Yahushua of Nazareth. Verse 8. Yahushua answered, I have told you that I am he. Mm-hmm. If therefore ye seek me, let these go their way.
Now, skip me down to where Peter cut that man's ear off.
Verse 10. Then Simon Peter, having a sword, drew it.
So once again, these Romans are soldiers. They're coming to do what? Arrest our King Christ. In the reason they, just like they found Sin Bull. Where's the sister at? She said, I'm here, sis. Just like they found Sin Bull, just like they found Red Cloud, it wasn't because the white man is so good at finding people. You think they found Osama bin Laden because they're just so good at finding people. It's a trait. You know how they found Osama bin Laden? Because of an Arab traitor. That's how they found Osama bin Laden.
I didn't know that.
Because some Arab who posed as his delivery man was really working for the CIA. And that's the reason why anybody gets found, because the white man he's not. Listen, the oppressor, I know he's your God. I know you love him, and he never does anything wrong. But blacks and Hispanics are smarter than the white man. He's more cunning than the white man. You know why? I'm sorry. You know why you think that white people are just the best at everything? You think that they found Sin Bull and they found Red Cloud and Osama bin Laden because the white man is your God. That's why, Elijah. That's why they think that, brother. They think that white people just can't do any wrong because he's your God. And that's thanks to Christianity. And so these Roman soldiers found Christ. Guess how they found Christ? Through a black traitor named Judas of Iscariot. The same way they found Sin Bull, because of native Indian traitors to their people. Well, the same thing with Christ. And here the Roman soldiers are. They found him because of Judas Iscariot led them his way. And now they're about to arrest him. But before they try to arrest him, this is what happens. Read, Elisha.
Verse 10. Then Simon Peter having a...
Salakia. Go ahead. Keep reading.
Oh, Salakia. Then Simon Peter having a sword drew it and smote the high priest's servant and cut off his right ear.
And did what?
Cut off his right ear.
He stood by with a camera and he watched as some Roman army soldier came to arrest his brother.
Cut off his right ear.
What did Peter do?
Cut off his right ear.
Now, he waited until Christ died and then went to court at the court hearing, and he cried about what he could have done.
And cut off his right ear.
That's what Peter did.
That's right.
Peter, he didn't allow his brother Christ to go and somebody to willingly, in his presence, get taken from him. He didn't allow that to happen. And this is what cuts every Christian and all of their goddamn beliefs about Christ and being soft and passive. Christ was anything but soft.
That's right.
And anything but passive.
That's right.
How do I know? Read that part again.
And cut off his right ear.
Because he trained soldiers to cut off a man's ear with a sword.
That's right.
Have you in here we carry swords. We wield swords. We know how heavy they are, and we know the type of strength you have to swing a sword at a man's head and aim for his ear and cut his ear off.
That's accuracy.
That's what?
Accuracy.
That's like a brother shooting a fly off a deer's nose at 200 yards. That's a brother who trains.
That's right.
Well, listen, brother. Christ trained these men to be soldiers and warriors, not choir boys like your church. Your church teaches Jesus, but they're soft. Your pastor says he loves Jesus, but he's soft. You love Jesus, but you watch George Floyd get unalived right in front of your eyes. You don't believe in the real Jesus, because the real Christ trained men to cut someone's ear off if they ever tried to harm one of their brothers out. And that's what you better realize about this story. Do you think Simon Peter just knew how to... You think what, the Holy Ghost gave him the power to cut a man's ear off? He did it because he was a trained soldier under Christ. He was second in command, which is militant in itself order.
That's right. Second
in command, third in command. Your church, what you got, the first lady and deacons and reverends? Not in Christ's military act. Christ had an army of 12 men, brothers, 11 of them in the truth. And he gave rank and order, Elisha. Ooh-wee. Ooh-wee. He was a soldier, brother. He was a top general. That's who Christ was, not a soft choir boy. Where do you get that from, Caesar Borgia? That's where you get it from. When the Bible says that Peter, at this time called Simon Peter, grabbed his sword when they tried to arrest his brother, when they tried to harm his brother, when they tried to take his brother alive, and he defended his brother the only way that he knew how. And that is what tonight's class was all about, Elisha. Because when those Chinese, when that lunatic went in, that 72-year-old Chinese lunatic went into that Alhambra ballroom to unalive more people, guess what the Chinese man did? He stood up and grabbed the gun and defended the people that was in that ballroom. Guess what Peter did when the Roman soldiers came to arrest their king and their brother Christ? He went and cut a man's ear off for Christ so he didn't have to go, and they couldn't take him alive. It was going to be a fight. Now, what does your pastor do when your daughter goes missing? What does your pastor do and your black leader do when your son goes missing or gets molested or by the swim coach? What does your pastor do when George Floyd gets murdered? What does your pastor do? What does Dr. King do when sisters go missing? When brothers go missing? When brothers get unalived? What does he do? Does he react the way Peter reacted, Doc? Does he react? Look, does he even react the way Chinese men act? Listen, the Chinese aren't known for, their military might and power. They're not America. They're not known for the Navy SEALs, and they're not known for the Delta Force and MARSOC. Yet and still, Elisha, a civilian Chinese, a Chinese civilian who wasn't military or militarily trained, he knew to defend his people out.
That's right.
But your pastor, he strips that ability away from black men. He strips that ability away from Hispanics and North American Indians. And he breeds them to be traitors like Judas Iscariot. Here's what you better realize now. Give me Joshua. Drop that and give me Joshua. Get a sister hand. She said collecting money. That's all they do. Damn right, sis. Get a sister hand. Your pastor is busy collecting money so he can give to his children to buy bigger houses, to get better cars while you struggle and suffer in the ghetto. His children ain't getting molested. That pastor, your pastor, his children ain't living like your children. His children are protected. They go to private schools, not the public schools with piss in the hallway. Not the public schools where they get miseducated. Not the unaccredited Kansas City public schools. Nah, man. His children go to a private school because you are paying for it. Because you give them all your money. You understand? You're giving that pastor all your money. And what do you get in return? No protection. You pay that pastor all of that money and he don't even work. Could you imagine that, Elisha? Your pastor, your Christian church have stolen over $800 billion and they haven't given that back to blacks and Hispanics in 1 cent. One. You haven't seen that money. You haven't seen the protection that you're supposed to get. You haven't seen the resources that you're supposed to get for $800 billion. You haven't seen the land that you're supposed to receive from that black Christian church for stealing $800 billion. Black people aren't supposed to be homeless. Black people aren't supposed to be poor. Black people aren't supposed to go without food or beg for EBT stamps. We do it and we live this way because of what, Elisha? Finish my thought. Finish my sentence.
We do it and we live this way because of the Christian church?
Because of the Christian church, because of the black Christian church. Can you imagine that, $800 billion? That's more than, what is the company that Jeff Bezos runs? Amazon. That's more than Amazon,
I was about to say Tesla. That's
Tesla, Amazon, Microsoft. Your black Christian church has more money than them. And your daughters go missing, Your son sleeps under a bridge. And your church has all that money. You pay your pastor, but he don't work. He don't work. You pay him all of that money, and he does nothing. Not Peter. Not Peter. Peter was directly trained by Christ. And Christ didn't go, and Peter didn't let Christ go without a fight.
That's right.
But George Floyd, forget about it. You'll pull your phone out. Some sister goes missing, and you don't even care. It's just a normal day for you. Some brother just got molested in the church. You don't even care. It's just another day for you. You were molested in the protection of your grandma's house by her brother, your uncle, your great uncle. And guess what? She didn't care. He didn't care. She didn't care. The pastor didn't care. The religious institutions didn't care. Your coach, he violated you, and nobody did anything. Nobody did anything. Your aunt, she violated you. Nobody did anything. Nobody did anything. You know why? Those people who allow that to happen, they don't follow Christ. They damn sure don't follow Christ. How do I know? because when they came to arrest Christ, Peter took a sword out and cut a man's ear off because he wasn't going without a fight.
That's right.
He had to be ordered to put the sword up.
Damn right.
He wasn't letting his brother, he wasn't letting his King Christ go without a fight, Ak. You, your pastor, what protection have you received from him to ever get your loyalty? And that's what I want to understand, Elisha. That's a question that I just need answered. Somebody answer for me, please. That's a Christian. What does your church do to earn your loyalty? Because as far as I know, you've been molested in that same Christian church. You've been evicted in that Christian church. You've gone through 4 husbands in that Christian church, and not one pastor told you to stop. One pastor, not one of them said, listen, you may need to just settle down with this one. You've been through 4 divorces. You got burned 3 times. You had 4 STDs, and not one Christian pastor ever told you anything. They just let you keep living a reckless life because they're cowards. Men that follow Christ would have told you something. Men that follow Christ would have defended you. Men that follow Christ wouldn't have never let you get molested. We would have never said what happened in this house stays in this house. That doesn't happen with men who follow Christ. Men that follow Christ cut a man's ear off for our brothers because we defend our people the way Peter defended Christ, the way Christ defended his men that followed him, brother.
Right.
Now, what does your pastor do? What does your Christian church do to earn and warrant your respect, to warrant your loyalty, to warrant your affinity? You should give that loyalty over to Commanding General Yohana.
Right.
You should plead your allegiance to the Israelite School of UPK, because in here you will never go missing. Nobody will ever harm you under the protection of real men of God. You won't go hungry. You won't go missing. You won't be violated. You won't be treated badly. Why? Because real men of God protect God's people. That's the duty and the responsibility of a man of God, to make sure none of God's people go homeless, to make sure none of God's people go missing, to make sure none of God's people get raped and molested and go poor and go homeless. That's the job and the responsibility of a man of God. Your pastor is not a man of God because your whole entire life was everything I just named, and your pastor was never there to protect you from danger, to warn you from danger. COVID-19 happened, and your church never told you. Your church continued to have Sunday service, not protecting you from the virus. Your church continued to pray over grandma, and she died from COVID-19, and she died from lung cancer, and she died from fibroids, and she died from breast cancer. What in the hell has the Black Christian church ever done to warrant your respect? You better give that respect and that loyalty and that love and your allegiance to a real man of God. The only man fit to lead God's people. The only man given the authority to lead God's people, and that's Commanding General Yohana. Read what you got, Ak. And this will be the last scripture we'll read. Go ahead.
You didn't give me the chapter.
Give me what we read for Sabbath service, Joshua chapter 3. Give me where that heathen woman came to Joshua. And this is at the time Joshua was responsible for the nation of Israel after Moses passed down the responsibilities and duties to Joshua. At one time, Moses was the one in charge of God's people. And that's another thing you better realize, that the Most High God is militant. That the Most High God, the God of this Bible, there's order, and there is one man that's responsible for God's people. Not 2, not 40, not 50, not different religious groups, not different denominations, not different Israelite groups. There is one man at all times that is responsible for God's chosen people, the children of Israel, so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. Read what you got, Ak.
You sure it's in chapter 3?
Give me 4 and 1.
Joshua chapter 4, verse 1. And it came to pass, when all the people were clean passed over Jordan, that the Most High...
So, give me 2. Give me Joshua chapter 2.
Yeah, okay.
Give me Joshua 2, verse 4.
About to say, yeah, this look familiar. Joshua chapter 2, verse 4. And the woman took the 2 men and hid them and said thus, There came men unto me, but I wist not whence they were. Verse 5. And it came to pass about the time of shutting of the gate, when it was dark, that the men went out. Whither the men went, I wot not. Pursue after them quickly, for ye shall overtake them. Verse 6. But she had brought them up to the roof out of the house. Salakia. Brought them up to the roof of the house, and hid them with the stalks of flax, when she had laid in order upon the roof. And the men pursued after them the way to Jordan unto the fords. And as soon as they which pursued after them were gone out, they shut the gate. Verse 8. And before they were laid down, she came up unto them upon the roof.
Give me verse 11. Skip me down to verse 11.
Verse 11.
This brother is reading this woman. The reputation of Joshua and the children of Israel, the Israelites, was so great. It was so powerful, so mighty, thanks to the act of love that the Most High God showed us when he led us out of the land of Egypt, out of that house of bondage called Egypt. Everybody knew about the Israelites. Right. Everybody knew the power that our God possessed. Everybody was afraid of our military might, thanks to our obedience to our God. This is what we're picking up from right here. Read what you got out.
Joshua chapter 2, verse 11. And as soon as we had heard these things, our hearts did melt.
What does that say?
As soon as we had heard these things, our hearts did melt.
Our what?
Hearts did melt.
Keep going now.
Neither did they remain any more courage in any man.
Brother, if you want, and I said this, Elisha, I keep saying it out. Didn't I just broke this down, brother. Brother, if you want love, real love, like we all do, Elisha, ain't that what the goal of everybody is? Don't we all want love? We all want to be loved. And here's blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians kicker. We want to love everybody. Well, let me help you out with something, brother and sister. If you want to love everybody, then you better do what Joshua did. You better do what the Israelites did here in the book of Joshua. What is this, chapter 2, verse 11? You better do this right here. Keep going.
Neither did there remain any more courage in any man.
Neither what?
Neither did there remain any more courage in any man.
Brother, the fear of our God was so great from heathens that this woman came to Joshua and said that neither did there remain any courage in any man. She said that our hearts did faint. Just the sight of Israel coming to another nation, just the sight or the hereabouts. You hear about something. You heard that those Israelites, they coming over here to Og. They coming over here to Shittim. They coming across Jordan. The word around the town would travel, and men in that city would tremble thanks to the power and the authority and the might that our God possessed. Thanks to the obedience that we gave our God, our power, the Most High, his protection was all on us. There was nowhere we didn't go that we were hurt. We went anywhere that the Lord commanded Joshua to go, and there was no hurt, harm, or danger that came to the people. Why? Because of our obedience. Because of our obedience. You understand? The men in every city trembled. There was no courage in any man. Their hearts fainted. They became cowards at the thought of having to defend their nation from Joshua and the Israelites. Joshua and those niggas whose God loves them, whose God defends them. Though that is what was in the mind of every heathen who came in contact with the Israelites at this time. Keep going, Elisha.
Because of you, for the Most High your power, he is power in heaven above and in earth beneath.
Keep going.
Verse 12. Now therefore, I pray you, swear unto me by the Most High, since I have shewed you kindness.
So she won't listen. This is what I want right here, where she's asking them to pledge an oath to her because she wants the protection from the men of God, because she wants the protection from the men of the Lord. And so she's giving this whole preface. You hear how she gamed them up. She said, listen, the men in our city, their hearts did faint. There is no courage in any man left. Why? Because you Israelites that serve a all-powerful God, a God, a man of war, there's no man who's willing to battle with you. There's no man who's willing to go to war with you. Their hearts tremble, their eyes faint, and their hearts get weak at the thought of having to cross paths with the children of Israel. Now, this is what I want you to do if you're black and Hispanic. Think about how afraid the drug dealers on your block are of your pastor. That's what I want you to do. I want you to think about every child molester. I want you to think about every gangbanger, every drug dealer, every white racist cop, every oppressor who's murdered blacks and Hispanics. This is what I want you to do. I want you to think about how afraid they are of your Christian pastor. I want you to think about how much they respect him and how afraid they are of him. Think about that for a second. Think about all of the black people and Hispanics who have been unalived by cops in the last 3 years alone. They say that black men's death, the number one cause of black men's death is what? Cops, Doc. Cops. That's the study they just did after this whole George Floyd thing. And they said that black men, you're more likely to be killed by a police officer than you are to have a heart attack or a stroke. Do you know that, Doc? You're more willing to die at the hands of, that was like number 5, top 5 ways for black men to die was cops, Doc. Commander J. Hunter brought it out not too long ago on his radio show on the Black Watch. And it's amazing, Doc, because here you are under the protection of the church, giving your money to the pastor, giving your money to a preacher, and the cops don't even fear your pastor's retaliation? You mean to tell me that Donald Trump can call Haiti a shithole country, and guess what Donald Trump doesn't fear? Retaliation from the Haitians. You mean to tell me that Donald Trump can call the La Raza, Mi Gente, a horrible people, bad hombres full of rapists and murderers sending us their worst, and he didn't fear retaliation from the Sinaloa cartel? He didn't fear retaliation from all of those cartels down there in Mexico? He didn't fear retaliation from the Mexican government? Even after he put Mexican babies in INS detention centers that were dog cages, he didn't fear retaliation? You mean to tell me America doesn't fear retaliation from the God of blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians for the mistreatment of Haitians, for the mistreatment of Hispanics, for the mistreatment of North American Indians, for the mistreatment of the West Indies, for the mistreatment of the Negroes? They don't fear retaliation, Elisha? Their hearts don't faint? There's no courage left in any man? Well, then you know what that means, don't you, Elisha? Then we're doing something wrong.
That's right.
Then our pastor, he must be doing something wrong, because Joshua, when he used to go from cities to city, country to country, do you realize that the men in those countries like the SEALs, that the men in those countries like DevGru, that the men in those countries like MARSOC, that the FBI, they were afraid of they were afraid of Joshua and the Israelites. They were afraid, their hearts melted. They were grown men, soldiers and warriors, and they were cowards at the thought of Joshua and Israel. Well, it seems to me, Elisha, we're not doing something right here then, Ak. If cops can freely murder our sons and molest our daughters at every traffic stop, if they can feel free to go on every reservation in America and steal every black and every Native Indian girl off those reservations, and they don't fear retaliation from our God, then we're doing something wrong. We're doing something absolutely wrong. Keep reading what you got, Ak.
Since I have showed you kindness, that ye will also shew kindness unto my father's house, and give me a true token. Verse 13.
No. Start from 12. Start from the top. So
I want to go back to the top?
Yeah, start from 12 from the top.
Now, therefore, I pray you, swear unto me by the Most High.
So what did this woman want? Protection. Protection. Now, here's another question you got to ask yourself. All of the crime that's happened to blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians since Dr. King's dream, how come nobody's ever gone to the Christian church and asked for protection, Doc? You mean to tell me that the Rolling 60s, that's what they call the Rolling 60s? The Wild 100s in Chicago, the 12th Street here in Kansas City, Kensington and Allegheny in Philadelphia. You mean to tell me that the residents of these cities that's overrun by crime and danger and murder and gangbangers, you mean to tell me not once did they go to a Christian pastor and ask for help, for defense, for protection of their life? Not once. Not once, Elisha.
Covered in the blood of Jesus.
They what?
Covered in the blood of Jesus.
Yeah, because that's what I think. I think the pastor is going to say, well, Sister Smallwood, all you got to do is just go back to the Wild 100s and pray. All you got to do is just go back to 12th Wayne Minor and just pray for safety. You just got to pray. You in Kensington and Allegheny, where everybody does drugs in Philadelphia, all you got to do, Elisha, is pray. You up there in Harlem, and all you got to do is pray. Well, let's hear what let's hear what, I keep saying King Joshua. Let's hear what Joshua's response is to this woman that's asking for this loyalty. That's asking for this protection. Keep reading that.
Now therefore I pray you, swear unto me by the Most High, since I have shewed you kindness, that ye will also shew kindness unto my father's house, and give me a true token.
Skip me down to verse 14.
Verse 14. And the men answered her, our life of Salakia, our life for yours.
Read that louder, out.
And the men answered her, our life for yours.
No, Joshua and the men, that his soldiers that rode with Joshua, what did they say to pray?
Our life for yours.
They said that you gotta pay tithes.
Our life for yours.
You gotta put in a prayer request, Elisha.
Our life for yours.
You know what you gotta do, sister? What you gotta do is you gotta believe with all of your heart that Jesus is gonna protect you and your family.
Our life for yours.
Go home and plead the blood of Jesus over your family.
Our life for yours.
What did Joshua say?
Our life for yours.
Did he say to pray?
Our life for yours.
Did he say that you got to love your enemy?
Our life for yours.
So you mean to tell me when these nations of people were trying to kill her and her family, and she looked for protection, and she went to the man of God that she knew she would get protection from, she went to him, and then he said what? He said that you got to go and you got to join hand in hand with your enemy. Is that what Joshua told this pleading woman?
Our life for yours.
Did he tell her that I have a dream that one day the children of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners are going to sit down together at the table of brotherhood?
Our life for yours.
Nah, that's not what Joshua said, man. That's not what the man of God, who is all rights to protect God's people, he didn't tell her to go home and pray. He didn't tell her to go and make a treaty with the Americans that kill your people in the 60s, like Dr. King, to join hand in hand with those people. That ain't what Joshua said, Elisha. That's not what he said. What did he say, Elisha?
Our life for yours.
Keep going.
If ye utter not this our business, and it shall be.
Brother, Joshua said, all right, we'll make an oath with you. We'll go in here and we'll do what we have to do, but you have to promise us something too. And let me explain something to you. That is a real man of God.
That's right.
That's a real man of God, not your pastor. If you're running from danger, who are you going to go to? Your pastor? What was it Freddie Graham in Baltimore? Was he running to a church? Is that where he was going for protection? Everybody in the black and Hispanic community knows how soft pastors are, how soft Christians are. That's why we say in the UPK, we ain't Christian. We're not some soft, sissified, pacified choir boy. We're men like Joshua, who people are going to be afraid of because we follow the Most High God the way Joshua followed the Most High God. And you can come to Commander Junior for protection, brother. You can come to Commander Junior for protection, sister. All you better make sure you do is you better make sure that when it's time for you to take that oath, take that blood oath that we all had to take, God, to earn that name, to get the protection that comes with serving God, you better be willing to sacrifice everything to do it. That's the way you're going to protect God's people, man. That's the way you're going to save your brothers, by coming in the UPK, by having, if you want to earn that power that King Joshua, I keep saying that, Elisha. You got to stop me from saying King Joshua. I keep thinking of King David, because both of them were some hardcore black men. And Joshua, listen, he was a Manassite. Joshua was what today you would call a Cuban. You understand? This was a brother from Cuba, a Manassite brother. And this brother was as hard as can be. And he served the Lord. Right. And he got his reputation was so mighty because of it. his reputation throughout the Bible, throughout heathens in the world know Joshua as being a mighty warrior who battled and who earned the respect of other nations and the fear of other nations, all because of his obedience to the Most High. If you want to save people out, if you want to help your brothers, if you want everybody to love you, the Africans love and the Chinese love, well, guess what? You better do what Joshua did.
That's right.
You better do what King David did. And you know what that is? That's obeying the Most High God.
Right.
And with that, I pass the class over to Priest and Officer Elisha. It's like it. We went over a little long.
It's a fire class.
Falling asleep.
No.
I'm just messing with you.
Don't do me like that out of wild. All right.
Elisha, your headpiece. Headpiece on. Here, put this on real fast. Did you see the announcement?
You got them fresh braids.
Oh, no, he's too wild.
Straight.
Yeah, he's too wild.
Here we go. ISUPK security announcements. We are the ISUPK. Start out at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Rule for new brother and sister. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves of the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There is another 6 months in which your brother and sister will court each other. After this 6-month period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment, Numbers chapter 18, verse 21, Malachi chapter 3, verses 8 through 10, means tenth in the Hebrew. By Asherah, 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you. Give to the treasury department or teacher. Priest fund, free will offering for priests, not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like. Upcoming holy convocations. We are March. What we got coming up in March? Purim is coming up. You got the exact date out of one?
I don't.
Salakia. Purim, Salakia, but Purim is coming up in March. You understand?
The Lord's Passover.
The Lord's Passover is April 1st in Raleigh, North Carolina. If you don't know by now, you super late. You understand? But if this is your first time hearing this announcement, the Lord's Passover is being held officially in Raleigh, North Carolina, April 1st.
That's right.
You understand? Get with your camp leader. If you're in whatever city you're in, try to find, your camp leader. If you're not in the school and you would like to attend, just, whatever city, you just try to find a number. You understand? Go to isupk.com. Every city and school is on their website.
That's right.
You understand?
The Lord's 54th.
The Lord's 54th annual Passover. And you got the
Feast of Purim is Sunday, March 5th.
And the Feast of Purim is Sunday, March 5th. You understand? Sundown? Sundown, Sunday, March 5th. Feast of Purim. You understand? Ramana Akim and Akwati, check the bulletin board in the hallway. If anyone wants to be a troop in the school, to start wearing all black, boots, shirt, pants, headband, or war scarf. And with that, Imadium, which means to stand. Men of Israel, we're going to give one courtesy salute to the teacher. Men of Israel, Mamachim Shabbat, Imadium, Marak, Yahba Shimi Al Shabrakatham,
Yahba Shimi Al Shabrakatham,
Yashamatah. Class is dismissed.